And just coming back to the traditional world of banking, what can you tell us about the current state of it and the improvements, like specific improvements that consumers need to see in the future?
So I mean the neobank phenomenon. I mean, it started really outside Australia about a decade ago, and really I would say that the UK and the USA were kind of leading that, and that was with the launch of, for example, Metro Bank and Moban Bank.
Yeah.
This was driven by the regulator lowering the requirements in terms of regulatory requirements, therefore making it easier for banks to become authorised and therefore launch. And because of this, it then started spreading across Europe. And now you can see these neobanks as a global phenomenon. So they look at very much on a positive culture. They look at kind of niche offerings, simple user interface is very pleasant and simple to use. And they very much kind of leverage developing technology where it's easy to deploy, easy to onboard. So they haven't got legacy systems. So I would say the neobanks are very much engaging with what customers want and making life easier for them to onboard, and generally just to be able to interface with their bank and perform banking services really. So that's the main thing. I'd say that the neobanks are winning customers over, and you've seen this a lot more in Europe. In Australia, it's a much newer concept. But they're still winning customers over by creating more competition, by creating more customer options, much faster onboarding. So to give you an example, HSBC, it's 124 clicks to onboard a customer, whereas Revolut, I think it's about 27. They're pushing technological capabilities, and the UIs and the add-ons are much nicer. So if you look at Upbank in Australia, for example, their user interface is very pleasant, and customers like using that. And I think also the artificial intelligence is also improving customer experience, where it's not just a kind of a static offering. It listens and evolves around how customers behave and what their needs are. So I think that's another part of it. Within the neobank space, there is also, as I said earlier, there are these niche offerings, and some banks are just very much playing across the board, keep it pretty generic. And then you've got some of them which are very focused on specific sort of sectors, customer base. So if you look at things like Oak North is playing with them within the entrepreneurial space, and they are actually looking to expand out from the UK to Australia. So it'd be interesting.
Okay.
If you look at the deposit market, Sainsbury's Bank, which is one of the supermarket banks in the UK, and Zinger, which obviously their news today is it's very sad to hear that, but they focus very much on the deposit space, and also Volt as well, which are yet to launch a deposit, but that's where they're focusing. And then you look at things like the retail loan market, Secure Trust, Atom Bank, Alex Bank, for example. They're looking at the retail loans, sort of personal loans. And then you look at things like branches. You've got Metro Bank, you've got mortgage market specialists, SME market, again, Judo, for example, Penta out of Germany, Toshka out of Russia. And then you look at the current account. So those banks are looking very much at the current account proposition. So Starling, UK, number 26 out of Germany, Up out of Australia. And then you've got the credit card market, such as Tandem and Archer out of Australia. And then you've got the private banking, so Handon and Co. There's really only been one neobank that's kind of broken into the private banking space.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's kind of where we are, I think, very quickly on a global footing and why we got there to a certain extent.
Okay, so it sounds like a lot of the banks now, neobanks, are kind of niching and wanting to become experts and specialists in specific areas and segments, which is
Yeah.
always a good thing.